To take my life into my own hands with the women a little bit and talk about some of my observances as a middle-aged man. And I think I share a lot about romance, talk about romance, because for years I thought I understood love and thought I'd had a little bit of romance. But when you really get romance, when something really hits you, you don't run it, it runs you. Romance runs you. And honey, the more you fight it, the more miserable you'll be, and the more you destroy your future. And so you just have to take that journey. But what I've found with middle age is that, and coming into this in middle age, and I'm still a young man, but middle-aged young man, I want to just put some observances in there. And I think generally, ultimately, men have given up their spiritual authority and the women have had to step up. And as women have stepped up, they've been abused by men. Men, and I think the onset of the internet and an over-sexualized society, life has become about visual, about sex. And women have allowed themselves to be used for that, thinking that's all that men want. And so everyone sort of skips the heart. And I've found with a lot of women that I've had contact with, they have numb hearts. They'd never know it. They think they're the most in-touch people ever. I thought I had an in-touch heart until I realized I had a numb heart. And through my marriage breakdown and not rebounding to a woman, but actually taking the journey of pain and letting pain take the journey in me, it broke my heart. It softened me. And I started to understand how much I was living numb. You know, talk to somebody about breakdowns and you know, you can be at 95% pressure and 5% more you're going to break down. And then something eases off and you come back to like 90%. And now you think, oh yeah, well, I'm pressure free now. Everything's pretty good. But everybody else can look at you and say, no, you're at 90% pressure. It's just that you had that little release and you think you're okay. And I think most women I'm going to talk to today, I mean men too, but women, I wanted to specifically talk to from a man's perspective. You've got numb hearts, and some of this men do too, yes. But I think men are able to. Well, I'm going to leave that out. I'm not going to compare. I'm going to get into real trouble. But ladies, you've been abused, you've been misused, you've been whatever, and you have intimacy with each other. Women can talk to women, because there's no vulnerability there. You can shut that off. You can decide you're going to change friends, but you can't have vulnerability with a man. And I've found some of the things women have done, their actions have been disgusting as far as their heart. They are cruel, they are vicious, they are careless, because when you touch their heart, I have a friend I used to travel with her father, and she was a little girl when I was in the car with her. So now she's a mother with some kids, and she's known me a few years. And she was talking to me recently about one of my experiences with a lady, and she was on the phone actually while I was driving and this experience happened. And she said, Scott, you know, one of the things that you've got in your life that is causing you trouble is, she said, you're very in touch with your feelings and you're very able to communicate it. And she said, and what that does as females is it makes you a threat. She said, because most females think men are only interested in one thing, sex, and give them that and they're happy. And so when a man comes along that understands his heart, he understands how to communicate it, and he also understands their heart, she said, you become a threat. And she said, as women, she said, what they will view you as chauvinistic, arrogant, all these sort of condescending things. She said, because what you're really doing is exposing the fact that they have a numb heart. And men are stupid, supposedly. And unfortunately, many of us are, and emotionally anyway. We're prepared to accept the fact that, well, just if a woman gives me my sex, then I'll be happy and life will be fine. But no, as men, we want intimacy of the heart. Women want intimacy of the heart, but we're just pulling in different directions because, you know what, it's hard to lay your life down for someone, especially sometimes you lay your life down to do the right thing. It gets misunderstood You get attacked, you get shot down for it, you get abused for it, you get kicked around, you get lied about, you get humiliated, and the person at the other end just is completely oblivious to the fact that you might actually have feelings, that you've put yourself out there for them, you've done something for them, even not to maybe be their lover, but just to be a respectful person that shows love. And, you do something for someone and then what do? Turn around and bite you for it. And so now men don't want to do it anymore and women feel like justified in it. And I think a lot of the things I find is some of these women that have been around my life, they will never accept responsibility for their actions. Well, I didn't ask him to do that. No, you didn't. But, does that excuse you treating him like he's an absolute piece of trash? Does that excuse your behavior to belittle? Does that excuse your behavior to make somebody feel like that they're valueless because they showed you some attention? And what I find in middle age is a lot of these women are starved for attention. They love it. They can never get enough. But they forget the fact that it's just all about them, and they forget the fact that a man, is putting himself out there. Doesn't have to do that, but as he puts himself out, they get abused. And I've got to say, as a middle-aged man, there's been so much of that. And women are used to transactional relationships. If I'm really honest, and I'm being blunt here, they get relationships with men that are transactional. In other words, they marry sugar daddies, or they marry men that are very placid, very calm in the sense of that these women demand what they want and they get it. And because they're trophy wives or trophy relationships where the man wants to think that he's got some beautiful thing, and women are wondering why their hearts are hungry. I talked with a woman that came through the freedom movement at one point. She's got a married man. She goes off to sleep with her lover, comes home in the morning before the kids are out of bed and gives them breakfast and that. And then she's living two men. She goes between two houses. And firstly, what kind of man would allow that? These complete cuck losers of men that are like, oh, that's all right. And then the women have basically got two husbands. And I said something to her. I said, well, this is it's obscene. Justify, validate it. And what they're doing is women are sitting and saying, I'm staying with this person I shouldn't be with because they provide naturally for me, but they've got nothing spiritually or mentally or in my soul. So I'm going to go off and get a lover somewhere that's going to provide that for me. And I'll have the best of both worlds. And I've got taken care of. Oh, man, life's so good. You're using and abusing yourself first and foremost. And I'm shocked. I'm a middle-aged man looking at relationships with women as I've navigated some of this. And it's absolutely off the charts obscene. And what people think is acceptable. And they stay there and they stay in this junk because they think that this is all they've ever known. And misery loves company. So, I had a friend, a male friend, that he said he would cheat on his wife and his wife would cheat on him. They both knew they were cheating. They didn't care until ultimately they got sick of it. Actually, he found Jesus and decided that this is not normal. And I actually want to have love and I actually want to be cared for and I actually want to have intimacy of heart. And he doesn't currently have it, but he's on a path of waiting because, he got free of that relationship and he's waiting. So anyway, my point to all this is people say, where's God? Well, you treat God the same way. You want a transactional God that I'll snap my fingers, a sugar daddy God. He'll do things for me. And women, you feel the heart of a man, you get a little bit of that, and then you shut it off and you take your intimacy off to wherever you want to take it. And you've sold yourself out, sold out your soul, as men have too, for sex. Women have sold it out for control and manipulation and vulnerability they've lost. When a woman comes into my life, I'll be vulnerable to her. She'll be vulnerable to me like I'm vulnerable to my God. And so I want to just encourage, as my time's up on this video, to say step back in your life, take a look, because I tell you, we only get one shot at this life. And if we stuff it up, we've only got one person to blame. God bless.